they had a warehouse, growing up where I could, as a creative little kid, just sort of make whatever I wanted. If you go to your parents and say, look, I'm going to be a musician, for most people, that does not go over well. The very, very early 5 Times August songs, they were all breakup songs because that's what I was going through. And so I was pulling from that place. And each song, each album, gets you from one place to the next, and you learn as you do. But I think I got trapped in a circle just trying to write a pop love ballad for a really long time, trying to be John Mayer. I worked with what was called a ghost label, who allowed you basically pay for the major label experience, which was like my first big failure. Everything was growing and was great up until then, just bled me dry because you're working with all these people who tell you you're great until you don't have any money. Just follow your gut. Even if the next project that you do as a creative individual is completely different and doesn't match your branding, it'll take you to the next thing after that. And that's okay.
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Blueprint. Today I have Brad Skistimas, who is a singer-songwriter with a band called 5 Times August. Really excited to hear this guy's story. He's got a lot going for him. Really unique story. Let's dig in, see what he's got. But if you guys do me a favor, hit that subscribe button on the bottom. It's going to let me get a lot more of these stories out there. Appreciate your support. Thank you. Hey Brad, thank you for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Have you ever had anybody that had like a really bad lisp and then they tried to get the full name out? How'd that go over?
Yeah, it's okay. You're not alone there.
Yeah, I'm just imagining Mike Tyson like trying to throw that down one time.
Yeah. No, that's been a thing my whole life. I mean, since grade school, even when I would have a teacher that would roll call, we'd have like a substitute or something, and my name was just one letter shy of fitting on the little sheets. They'd always say Skistima. So I was Brad Skistimas all the way through 5th grade. Yeah. So, it's in my roots.
Yeah. What were some of the words the names kids called you?
Some of the names kids called me?
Yeah.
In like a bully aspect?
Yeah, bully aspect.
I didn't really get bullied, I don't think. I mean, I did work with a guy that just called me Brad the Rad Dad all the time. That was much later than elementary school, though. That would have been weird in elementary school. Yeah, for somebody to call me Brad the Rad Dad, but
you could have been the cool guy in school at that point.
That's true. Yeah.
I always find when people got unique names, people always try to pair them up with something. Brandon Tandon, Adam's Apple.
No, it's usually they instantly go to Christmas. They'll be like, "Oh, Skistimas, like Christmas." Okay. Or they'll say, Mr. Christmas or Mr. Skistimas. It's some variation. I think the name itself is enough to play with that you get all kinds of stuff all the time.
Surely. Well, where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth kind of metroplex area. I grew up in the Highland Village, Louisville area as a kid. We moved to Flower Mound, and that's kind of where my childhood took place up through high school. Okay. And moved to Denton from there, Denton, Texas. Then moved down to Austin for a year, and now I'm in the Waxahachie area. So I've always been kind of, right up and down 35.
Nice.
Yeah.
So family's a big family, a small family?
A decent sized family. I've got 2 brothers, a sister. So 6 of us growing up.
Christmases are crazy?
Skistimas Christmas, baby. Yeah, it was good times.
You guys and your family pretty close?
Yeah, I think we've done a pretty good job of staying close over the years. And I'm actually looking to move back to that area now with my kids getting older and my family being kind of still in that Highland Village, Louisville area. So we're actually kind of this year kind of going, well, maybe it's time to go back.
It is funny how you get used to things and you call things home, right? And that term just means like where the family's at, right? It doesn't really mean like the location or a city or a town, but it's like your people, right? And so the closer we get to making our true nest or where our kids grow up, it seems to be that we try to get closer to home for the most part, you know, and you got a pretty tight family that you wanted to gather them back around. Some people run, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I've got, my oldest brother lives in California and my sister lives in Lubbock, but my other brother still lives there. My parents live there. My wife has a cousin that lives there. My best friend growing up, he still lives out there, and good schools and stuff. And that's what's kind of funny is I've lived in Waxahachie for 20 years this year, and I've loved it. I've called it home, but it still feels like over there is still home.
Right.
You know, that childhood time like hits you just right. Cause like I lived in Highland Village for 4 years, but they were like the pinnacle of childhood, those 4 years of just like going to your friend's house and making all those memories. So, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully we can find a house. The market's crazy, but a lot's happened between then and now.
Yeah.
So,
What about your parents? What did they do?
So my parents, I grew up, my dad was an illustrator early on. Did like corporate illustrations and stuff like that. And then in the early 90s, my parents started a business together, event decorating business, which grew substantially over the years. They ended up doing like large scale parades, Thanksgiving parades, designing parade floats and stuff. So they had a warehouse, you know, growing up where I could, as a creative little kid, just sort of make whatever I wanted. There's wood and metal everywhere. And, you know, you could just kind of just design what you want, try it out. Me and my friend tried to make a guitar one time. It wasn't very good, but, you know, it was such a playground that I kind of took for granted. I was pulled into working with them all the time. And this was just my life, you know, going to do parades and things like that I didn't really connect how special that was till years later. And my dad would pick me up from middle school in a big Ryder truck filled with, you know, whatever it was that we were installing. So, you know, it was a very unique upbringing, and I was just around creativity a lot. And my parents really nurtured that creativity, you know, no matter what it was that I was into, they would always allow me to explore and do those things, whether I was into magic, you know, for a little bit, or once I found a guitar, I mean, that was it for me. But they've always been my number one fans. So I've been very blessed in that sense to kind of grow up in a very creatively nurturing environment, and then to pursue something that if you go to your parents and say, look, I'm going to be a musician, for most people, that does not go over well. But for them, you know, to their credit, they let me go at it. And here I am, you know, 20 years down the road since, you know, really starting out, 25 years now, and still doing it. Still rolling. Yeah.
When you said, were you the only one that they took on to help work out in the shop?
No, it was kind of, it's kind of a rite of passage. I mean, it was for all of us growing up, and then it kind of bled into pulling in our friends on jobs. And then as we became married, our spouses would end up going on jobs. So it became a rite of passage in our family to sort of go and do a job with my parents, because they would always need help doing something. And so that's been pretty cool. And in fact, my dad needed help doing an installation over Christmas, and you know, my two boys got to go and help out Grandpa. So I was like, you've got to. It, you know, the story continues. So
passing the torch.
Yep.
I'm guessing you learned how to fabricate with welding and woodwork as well?
A little bit of welding here and there. Wasn't very good at it, but I got to do it, which is really neat. Wood cutting, drilling stuff. I got really good with an X-Acto blade, did a lot of signage work.
Yeah.
I mean, you name it. They did it. They were doing restaurant openings. They did Michael Jordan's restaurant opening in Chicago, traveling around. I mean, gosh, I can't even count. But the really cool thing was doing the TV parades, I think, growing up. That was something that you could actually go
Macy's
back and
Day
watch.
Stuff. Macy's Day and stuff like that.
It kind of like along that lines. Adolphus Children's Parade here in Dallas was one that we did. We flew out to Seattle. for I think 4 or 5 years every year around Thanksgiving. Did a Thanksgiving parade up there, and just really cool experiences that, like I said, like at the time it wasn't until I got older that I was like, wow, and all the times I kind of resented my dad for pulling me in as a teenager.
Yeah.
When you're at that age where you're like, I've got better things to do.
Yeah.
And then years later, I was like, wow, that was a very like Mr. Miyagi kind of experience where I was learning so much during that time that I did that. Like it wasn't until I got away from it and grew up that I was like, wow, I have all these skills now, these creative skills, which parlayed into everything I needed to become a self-sufficient indie musician.
Yeah.
So once I started recording my songs at home and was doing that, I already had graphic design skills. And so I could design my own CD artwork, and I was printing it out. And, then it became, how do I market this CD and how do I do that? And I just became very, just very keen on teaching myself how to do the things I needed to do on my path as I needed it, which was another thing I did. I just thought that's what you did. I mean, observing my parents create their own business and become successful with it set a tone in my early childhood of just, oh, that's what you do in the future. You find out what it is that you're good at, and then you just go do that. So I didn't go through high school into those college years thinking like, oh, I've got to think about what kind of job I'm going to end up doing. Like when I graduated high school, I was like, I'm going to be a songwriter. I'm going to be a recording artist, and that's what I'm going to do. And I had no other option. That was just the path that I was on, and I set out. And that's the moment I graduated that summer, recorded my first little bedroom CD and started playing coffee shops, and inside of 3 years was getting some licenses to MTV and started touring beyond Texas. And I just worked my butt off.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that work ethic goes back to what your parents were kind of doing and watching them do this. And as you see the both of them, like generally you see a power couple like that is able to, bring up a company by themselves. It's one, it's kind of creative, and the other one's kind of analytical. Is that kind of the way your family was set up, or are they both?
Yeah. So, they're both very creative individuals in their own right. My dad was definitely, the more conceptual person. My mom was the more business side of things. So she would handle the phone calls, contracts, arranging what time and we're doing the install, whatever it may be. But they both had a creative vision that they could both work with. And that ended up becoming a huge part of my life when I met my wife. I mean, we met working in radio, and then she found out I was a budding, starving musician, and she started helping me out, and then that relationship grew. And so we became a husband and wife, power team like that throughout, by the time I was touring colleges. So, and that independent spirit is just, it's something that I think I wanted to get away from at some point. Like you eventually work with people, and by the time I dipped my toe into working with bigger companies and stuff, I was like, ooh, this feels very weird. And I had to really embrace just being a straight up independent artist. Yeah. So that's a whole other thing. But yeah.
Well, kind of rewinding that back and thinking about, you said you knew you loved music at some point, right? Like you said you tried to make a guitar. Was that the first moment for it? Or like, where did you get the guitar in your hand for the first time?
So the guitar came to me. I love this story because it really shows you how your actions can impact people you don't even know. But I had found a guitar in the back of the closet at home that just appeared one day. Like I was digging around in the house and I was like, what is this? It's sitting back there, had one string left on it. And I already loved music. But
how old were you?
I was 11.
Okay.
And I hadn't really been that close to like what I felt like was a real instrument. We had like a keyboard at home and stuff, but this was like a guitar. And I was just mesmerized by it. And we happened to have a coupon book for the city that had 2 free guitar lessons in it that my mom had just bought as from like a fundraiser or something.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to the local guitar shop and got it strung up. And I took a couple lessons there to get my feet wet in it. But when that guy strung that guitar up and played a full chord on it, I was like, oh my gosh, it was like one of those magical moments. But the guitar came by way of my grandmother, who bought it for my grandpa in the 70s because he played a little bit, not too much. But I guess, he had it. It was a nice little gift. And somehow he set it down and it worked its way into our house, into that closet. But I just thought, man, if my grandma had not bought that guitar for my grandpa, how different would my life be right now?
Yeah.
Just to have that thing right there, right at the time where there was this hunger to for music, and you're not really sure what that is, and then the answer's right there. It was hiding in the back of the closet. And so yeah, that was the beginning of it. I was getting into, I grew up listening to my parents' records. I was really into the Beatles, and I had a 5th grade teacher that used to play the oldies radio. And so I was listening to all these old songs, and that was kind of like what I really liked listening to. And I had just gone through a really heavy phase of dancing like Michael Jackson. There was this entertainer sitting, it was morphing, figuring itself out at a young age, where I just wanted to entertain somehow. Like I mentioned, magic and stuff. And then I was into dancing and
get some parachute pants.
You know what? I did.
Yeah, baby.
I did. The most embarrassing picture of me is my dance picture from that year. And we'll see if it ever reaches the light of day, but it's a good one.
Yeah.
But for sure, like that was me. I was like trying to figure out, I was making home videos with my buddy. We'd make funny little kid videos, as you would if you had access to a VHS camera. So I was doing that kind of stuff. And then, once I got to the guitar and that guy strung it up, like I said, and I took a few lessons, like it was written in stone. Yeah. This is the path I'm on from here on out. And, even then, like I had it in me to keep going with it, because we moved in the middle of that year. So I couldn't go to the guitar lessons that I was going to. So I had about 6 months of guitar lessons. Then we moved, and I had to teach myself from there. We never really pursued looking for other lessons. So I was self-taught from there and just kept going with it. And I was about 11. By the time I was like 12, I was starting to sort of play with writing my own songs.
Okay.
And about 14, I was writing stuff that I was kind of like, yeah, this is okay. Like I really, you start to get proud of yourself. And then by the time I played throughout high school, played guitar for the choir band. So got a lot of experience performing on stage and with the band, and entered talent shows and stuff like that. So by the time I graduated, though, I was just like, there's just no other path for me.
Were you playing gigs and stuff while you were in high school at the same time?
Not really. I had a buddy of mine that we would do stuff at school. We would find opportunities to play at school, whether it was talent shows or if the choir was putting on a program, we'd ask if we could play something as an opener. When the principal retired, we were like, can we play? Britney Spears was popular at the time. We played, his name was Mr. Sigler, and we changed the words to Hit Me Sigler One More Time, and played at his pep rally for his retirement. And those things were like really showing me like, wow, like the power of entertaining people. And then you get a pat on the back as you're going down the hallway the next day. Wow, that was really great, And I had a friend who, she was a singer, and she asked me to learn like 30 songs for a set at a coffee shop. And I really enjoyed that. And so all these things accumulated over, picking up the guitar. It's all just, those beginning years where you're just doing what you can, whatever it is that you can do to play for people. And then by the time, like I said, graduated high school, I spent that whole summer just like writing songs and recording them and getting that experience going.
Did people know you in high school as the musician guy? Or was this kind of something that was just...
I think towards the end of high school, I think I got sort of a name going for myself. At least me and my buddy did. It was always like, what are Brad and Jeremy going to do next? And so, I've had friends that have, reached out since then. They're like, wow, I remember, seeing you play, and it's pretty cool to see how far you've come. So,
What's Jeremy doing right now?
Jeremy is in Highland Village, and he's a creative director for a company doing like short films and stuff for in-house films. And, every now and again, we still come back around to, we're still in touch, and we're still buddies. And we're like, one day we're going to,
relive it.
We're going to relive it, get back together. And my kids love watching all the movies we made as kids, because back then you did it just for your own entertainment. Like nowadays, everybody does it for clicks and YouTube views and stuff.
Right.
And we'd spend a whole day making a movie, and we'd pretend like so many people are going to see this one day. And that's another thing where I'm like, really, we were only making it for my kids way in the future, because they love watching me at their age make these movies, And that's a really cool thing for this generation to get to see, because our generation grew up with, we're really the first ones to grow up with like solid home video documentations of our childhood. And you can really get to know your parents that way and who they were when they were your age. So it's kind of a neat thing a way to bond with my kids.
Yeah. When you and Jeremy get back together, you guys going to bring the parachute pants back out, or?
I think so. No, we got to at some point.
Dude, you got to
we'll figure out a way to work it in.
What was the name of the band?
Yeah. It was just Brad and Jeremy. Every night.
Spot on.
It was just Brad and Jeremy. But like every now and again, I think we just had fun with it, because I think one year we named it an acoustic, I can't remember. It was like an acoustic surprise or something like that by Brad and Jeremy or whatever. We'd always think of something stupid and lame to put in there. We joked and I mean, it was kind of like a comedy music kind of thing. And
satire stuff.
Yeah. But we just had a lot of fun doing it. So,
well, so you broke out of that. Sorry, Jeremy, you kind of got left behind on that deal, but you went through and you were like, all right, now I need to start taking this serious. I'm going to start writing some songs. And you spent more time. When you go to start writing a song, is it about the lyrics? Is it about the message? Is it about the tune that goes with it? Like where do you start as a musician?
Well, it's different now than it used to be. I think, now it's very much, what's the purpose of this song? What am I giving to people with this? And that has not always been the case, especially when you're starting out. It's very ego driven, and your introverted feelings you're trying to pour out into this song and hope that other people connect with you. Cause like, the very, very early 5 Times August songs, they were all breakup songs, because that's what I was going through. And so I was pulling from that place, and each song, each album, gets you from one place to the next, and you learn as you do. But I think I got trapped in a circle, just trying to write a pop love ballad for a really long time. Trying to be John Mayer, or Dave Matthews, or Jason Mraz. Like those were the guys that were influencing me, around those early years. And that's what I wanted to be. And so I kind of felt trapped in this sort of circle. It served me well. I mean, I had a lot of those songs ended up on, a lot of MTV shows from back then. And I was playing colleges, and it really, it all worked. It wasn't like I was still writing from a place that was true in me and what I was living through. And, but I kind of felt like I just didn't know what else to write about, because I didn't have too much life experience. I didn't have, I was a starving musician, but I wasn't starving. I was just trying to get my career up and running, and I had supportive parents. So I didn't have, this this, sort of
get out of the house
angsty kind of, like I've got to prove my parents wrong kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was until I started experiencing, like, my career was going up and up as I was building it until about, I don't know, like by the time I was meeting with record labels and stuff.
What year is this, you think?
So I started 5 Times August in 2001, right after I graduated. And then 2004, I have like a big break on MTV, and I have this song that's on the show called Laguna Beach, if you remember that show. And that song was called Better With You. And it was like, this was back in the MySpace days and early social media. So like my views are going up. I'm getting likes and follows from people all around the country. And so I used that to sort of schedule my first foray out of Texas and schedule a tour. And then I released an album after that in 2005, tour that in 2007. So 2007 through 8, I'm meeting record labels finally. And I've jumped around quite a bit already in my story, but I'm trying to like cobble together 25 years and go, when was that?
Yeah.
But it was about 2008. I was kind of reaching that point where early on in my career, 2001, I'm sitting there thinking, how do you become a popular artist? Well, it's very much rooted in the traditional perspective of, well, you get your record label deal, you get a hit on the radio, you get a manager. And I had all these like, naive expectations as you do. And over the course of those first 5 years or so, I was starting to utilize this new tool called the internet for indie artists. It wasn't like the internet was new, but social media and how you used it to get your work out there was like becoming a really useful tool. And the more I accomplished, the more it got out there, the more I was able to accomplish on my own. So I was booking my own tours. I was touring colleges. I met my wife during that time, and she became my manager. And so my perspective of making it was starting to change. But there was still this idea that you get to a certain point. That was still rooted in this traditional outlook on how you go about the music industry, which was, well, at some point you sign to a major label. And by 2008, I was having those meetings, and I wasn't quite sure I really wanted to do that. So I worked with what was called a ghost label, who allowed you basically pay for the major label experience, which was like my first big failure. Everything was growing and was great up until then. And then it just bled me dry, because you're working with all these people who tell you you're great until you don't have any money. And I learned real fast. And that was a super valuable experience for me, where I'm like naively just like, I'm going to be a musician and everything's going great. And you're getting these song licenses, you're touring, and I'm doing all this stuff. And I hadn't quite had a flat tire yet, on my journey. And that was like the car totaled almost about that time, because I had invested a lot in my first real like studio album. I paid a bunch of guys to be on it and was paying for marketing, advertising, radio play, and it was all coming out of my pocket.
Yeah.
And everybody I was working with just was like the flakiest of flakes, that it ran me dry. And then I was like kind of sitting there with empty pockets going like,
what did I do?
What did I do? I just screwed up everything that I've been building. So that was a big thing, a big blow to me. It was about the time I released an album called Brighter Side. And ironically, because it was kind of a darker time for me to have to sort of start the engine, to rebuild the engine.
Right.
Because it's easier now, I think. All these tools have become commonplace, and they've figured themselves out with how to create revenue through them.
And exposure.
There's algorithms and just all these different, SEO and stuff that we really didn't have in place as they weren't figured out quite yet around that time.
Right.
YouTube wasn't generating revenue. It was just a portal to put your music out there.
Right.
And so, I kind of had to refigure out where to go from there.
Yeah.
And, between 2008, 9 and 10, I was kind of having to refigure myself out. And so that was like a huge, a big fail. But I think that you have to have one of those big fails somewhere along the way, because I'm glad I went through it.
Yeah.
Because I persevered and it taught me a lot about myself.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to go through that. And we talked about this earlier off camera. We were talking about what are the punches in the face that kind of make you realize, like, look, you said you had a dream from day one. Hey, I'm gonna be a singer-songwriter. This is who I am. This is what I'm going to be doing. And then all of a sudden you set these expectations of how that journey was supposed to go, right? All the way up to the point where it wasn't going as fast as you wanted. So you mocked it into place with a faux publisher, right? A faux record label, right? A bunch of yes guys to really kind of tell you you're great until there's no more money left, right? Did your perspective of success change after that moment? Was it, I still need to be John Mayer, or was it, hey man, I'm doing well doing what I'm doing, living. I have aspirations for being something, but man, what I'm doing right now is still pretty cool and more than what most are.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it had, for a while, I think, it was kind of like you're trying to scoop together the pieces and glue back together something that was broken. And it took me a while to figure out. And in fact, I kind of dropped the 5 Times August name for the first time. And I did a side project called Music by Bradley James. And
back
also,
to the high school names.
What's that?
Back to the high school names.
Back to the high school names, yeah. But, so I kind of had to I don't know. It just took some, you're sitting there, you're kind of out of breath, but you did have to kind of look and go, well, I got myself here, and you do sort of pick up the pieces and shuffle along. But it was the first time where I had to do other things to get by since I had started. So I had to pick up odd jobs and, do things that I really didn't, that really had made me appreciate a lot of what I had accomplished. So, an example was I ended up doing a lot of odd jobs in marketing and promotion, where you sort of get signed up in those companies to go, be out somewhere and represent a brand or something. And I had signed up and gotten this position with Google to promote Google Chromebooks. And when they had started out, and they flew you out to, I think we went to Florida for a training over the weekend. And I was sitting there so wrapped up in my ego that I was like, man, I hope nobody recognizes me when I'm out here. This is going to be so embarrassing.
Yeah.
And we get picked up at the airport, and they drive us on the bus over to where we're the training facility. And I get off the bus, and this guy walks up to me right after. He goes, "Is your name Brad?" And just instantly put me in my place, where I was like, yeah. And he's like, are you in 5 Times August? I was like, yeah. And he's like, what are you doing here? You know, and it just so put me down in my place of just well, things aren't going that well for me right now, whatever. And then they give you your uniform, your Google t-shirt or whatever, and your button-up shirt. I'm not a button-up shirt kind of guy with the collar. I never saw myself that. And they, I'm looking at myself in the mirror wearing this outfit going gosh, but I did what I had to do. I mean, it was just that season of my life, but it started to make me reflect on things that maybe I had taken for granted. During those college years, playing colleges where maybe some nights you wouldn't play for as many people as you wanted, or you didn't get paid as much as you thought you would or something. You start to go, gosh, I was out there still. I was doing it. I was making my dreams happen. Maybe one night here and there wasn't as successful as you thought it was, but the overall package was a success. So, you know, those things stay with you moving forward. It matures you. It pulls you out of this sort of ego that you're wrapped in. And that's something that has been a theme, I think, throughout my career, is just stripping away the ego, to the point back to your question a few minutes ago about what I think about when I write and how songs come about. Now I don't write for myself per se. I write songs that I think I would enjoy for sure, or that things that I think need to be out there. But I write songs that sort of go, well, what is this song doing for the person? So now, like, you know, I have a kids music project which serves so many purposes behind it. You know, I'm enriching the kid's life. I'm giving teachers something that's not super annoying to listen to, because it's, you know, I try to write songs with substance and soul. It's not your baby shark. You know, you mentioned, if you mention children's music to people, they instantly kind of go like, oh, you know, beep, 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 beep. Yeah. Like the most obnoxious thing you can think of. And, you know, my approach with kids music is to just write it as a songwriter, not talking down to the kids, but giving them something of value that parents and teachers can listen to, you know, that doesn't drive them nuts. They can actually go, you know what, this is actually pretty good. So there's things like that. And, you know, throughout COVID, my songwriting changed substantially, because I sort of became a protest artist for the first time in my career, which was something that I never thought I would have seen myself as.
Yeah. I was going to say, I when I Googled you at the very beginning, the first thing to come up was protest artist. Like that was your label to this. To date, like that's what they pigeonholed you as. Never really kind of, you know, thought about that being a theme or a genre, but explain to us how someone becomes protest artist and that becomes kind of what their label is.
It's an interesting thing, because I never would have thought of myself as being any kind of political artist or protest artist. So I had done 5 Times August. I'd been under that moniker since 2001 up to about really 2018. And then I started the Jukebox, which was my kids' music project. I'm doing that full bore for 2 years up until COVID hits. That's where my heart and soul is. And I'm like loving it. It's very rewarding. And my kids are that age too. So like I was working at home with my kids, pulling them into my music for the first time. It was a family affair in the recording room, and, you know, is very happy and a bright time. Then COVID hits, and I don't like what's happening in the world throughout 2020. And I'm sitting there going like, gosh, like, you know, the government's saying this and it doesn't really make sense. And I'm starting to question like reality and my sort of naive outlook on life, really. But, you know, I kind of shut down creatively, because there's a lot. I had always sat sort of in this like very safe middle ground as an artist up to that point. And I didn't know what to say, because I knew if I had spoke my mind, I was going to upset a lot of my fan base, a fan base that I had spent 2 decades building up. A fan base that, you know, it was very diverse across the board. And I had friends, you know, in the industry that maybe were more left leaning or whatever, or other friends that were right. Like I liked everybody. It was very just a middle of the road, live and let live kind of guy. But then COVID hit, and I just didn't like it. So I wasn't sure what to say. And I sat kind of quiet up until towards the end of 2020. And I was praying a lot, just going like, God, what do you want me to say? And that was a new thing for me, to really be like, you know, to kind of spiritually partner, you know, with the grand creator, you know, and be like, what do you want me to say? You know? And so I wrote this song called God Help Us All. And it was it was a prayer, really. and it came out of me, and I was saying things that I hadn't really ever said before in any of my songs. And I put it out there. It's like a 5-minute song, just me on the guitar, very raw, honest, live performance in my bedroom, kind of hearkening back to my early days. I just kind of got back to basics and tapped into this creative energy. And I put that out thinking like, well, this will be my one sort of vent and say on the matter of what I'm seeing in the world. And almost as soon as I put that song out, there was a jolt in everything I had done up to that point, where I pissed off a lot of people that had been following me for years. And simultaneously, new people were discovering this song that I had put out, saying, thanks for saying that. I felt really alone. And it was kind of the first time, like, the more I had gotten those messages of people, it was very bipolar, and you felt very alone for a little while, because I would tell my wife, like, I think I'm burning down everything I've tried to build, or I'm building something new. And so I kept kind of leaning into it, more so that leaning into the side of like people telling me thank you for saying that, because I needed to hear that. I felt like I was going crazy. I was calling out the government and what we were seeing, and the compliance that was happening. And so I was losing fans, and then building this whole new base of people that really got what I was trying to say. And from one song to the next, as I started releasing those songs, I was tapping into this artist side of me that stopped caring what people thought, and stopped playing it safe, and really tap into this raw, that sort of angsty thing that had kind of always been missing from the pop side of things.
Yeah.
And it really toughened me up. And I tapped into an artist that was in there that I never thought I would be, because I kind of grew up observing those, anti-establishment rock and roller guys as like, oh, they're cool. That'll never be me. I'm not that kind of guy. And I'm still not really that kind of guy. I'm just a dad. And I was really just singing about what I thought was true, and that's the point of art anyway, it's the artist's observations and reflections of what they're seeing in the world. So as people were telling me, thank you, thanks for saying this in your song, it let me know I wasn't alone. And I kept leaning into it over the course of those next 2 years, and ultimately had this album called Silent War that it took me all over the world, and it took me to stages I never would have guessed. I played on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial at this rally for 35,000 people, and like you're standing there going like, never would have guessed I'd be here, but here I am. And toured Austria with a lot of outspoken doctors, and so I sort of, to me, it wasn't a political message, but it did become, the world has become so polarizing that if you disagree with anybody about anything, it becomes political. So I became an activist of sorts, but really I was just speaking out on what was important to me. So, but it made me stronger, and now I can sort of take that experience and move ahead with it. It's another one of those things where, I feel like it was helping me wrap up a lot of loose ends that with 5 Times August that I never quite achieved. Like, oh, this is what I was really trying to do for a long time, really connect with people in this way.
I think what you're saying right there, I really love, as an artist myself, I really love to hear this. These are things that I struggle with as well. I've worked a long time building my base up, and knowing that there's 2 sides of the room that I have friends in, right? And I've always tried to play it safe as we go through this world of like, there's things I could say about so-and-so, but man, do I knock down this house of cards by playing this hand, right? And I've always been so jealous, literally jealous of artists that go out and speak their mind with no fear of repercussion, right? There's an artist out there that I've always followed, liked. I've gone off the rails of recent, but at the end of the day, like Kanye West.
Mm-hmm.
Love him or hate him.
Mm-hmm.
He tells you exactly, fear-free, of who he is,
mm-hmm.
and gives you an opinion, and I always thought to myself, like, I wish I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could stand up. I wish I could say, here's this, here's that. This is the raw feeling behind this. And I think, even my art would change dramatically as the things I'm producing and the things that I want to say, because some of the biggest hits that I've had have been real raw life moments, that I've just depicted in art. And to hear you say that, like,
mm-hmm.
I don't know, I think so many people really need to focus on hearing that.
Mm-hmm.
It's authenticity.
Yeah.
There is nothing wrong with saying something. The true problem with people is not having the ability to hear something
mm-hmm.
without having to act one way or the other to it.
Right.
We all have a voice, but I don't have to shame you or tear you down because your voice isn't my voice. We
mm-hmm.
need to be able to say things. That's what makes us great.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to listen to other people and their sides, right? And so
mm-hmm.
I'll just say kudos to you, man. Like that,
thanks.
That's very powerful, and it means a lot to me to hear someone say, like,
mm-hmm.
Not meaning to do this, I just did this because it was in my heart, and I wanted to throw
mm-hmm.
this out. So
yeah, it's interesting, when you do that, because I put that first song out thinking, like, my safety net was naively like, well, those that have been following me should know where my heart is. They should know, they might at least hear it. They're like, oh, I've never heard Brad sing like that before. I wonder what drove him. And I got some angry emails where there was no conversation to be had.
mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there, to your point, going like, I'm not closing the door on you. I just
mm-hmm.
want to put that out there.
Yeah.
You're walking away from me. You're deleting my music.
Yeah.
You're welcome back at any time. And I will have that conversation with you and tell you why I feel the way I feel. So that was a very jarring thing to have to deal with. And I wasn't the only one, speaking out at that time in music. And that was another silver lining of that experience, was finding other artists and making friendships with other guys that took that same risk. And we had sort of, this awesome sort of moment cultural moment that we hadn't seen in a while, since like the 60s. That was like a moment I felt like, if more artists had really spoke out at that time instead of just falling in line and complying with things, it was a very valuable moment that kind of went to waste.
Mm-hmm.
But for those of the artists that did speak out at that time, I respect them so much. And many of them, we became friends with one another, but we all kind of went through that together, where like you say this thing, you're kind of nervous about it. You get very angry emails, you feel very alone. And then this trickled in effect of people starting to take notice, that feel like you come and put the Band-Aid on it and they make you feel better. And then you sort of, you don't even worry about that other side of that ugly side of things anymore, where people,
mm-hmm.
And the more I thought about it, I was like, why do I feel like that? I listen to so much music that I don't
mm-hmm. agree
with, this artist or that artist or their lifestyle or whatever
mm-hmm.
it may be, but I can still appreciate what they're creating,
mm-hmm.
and if I don't have to listen to it. I don't have to make a stink out of it.
Right.
But I was also like trying to make the point to people, if you're going to like X me out of your music library, because you don't like one line in a song that I wrote, you're going to have a lot of work ahead of you going through the rest of your iTunes library, right? Like you better start going through, like pay
attention.
Yeah. You're only mad about it because you just now you saw it and you noticed it and you're thinking about it. And, it's a silly way to behave, because what I long for is that pre-COVID era that we kind of grew up with in the 80s and 90s, really, where you could disagree with somebody politically and still be their friend.
Mm-hmm.
and it's just got it's fallen off the wagon. It's just gotten crazy. But yeah, it's an interesting thing to go through that experience where you really try to be safe for a long time. And even with that first song, I thought I was kind of being safe. God help us all. And I think the most controversial line that I think I put in that song was a lyric that said, "Mask up, backs up, get your body trashed up," which nobody had heard me say something like that before. And especially at the height of masking and the vaccines being rolled into place. But it jarred something in a lot of people. And, the song after that was called "Jesus, What Happened to Us," which was a even deeper focus on what the state of the world. And then I had crazy people commenting on those. And I wrote a song for them called "Out of Your Damn Mind." And then, if you listen to that record, Silent War, from top to bottom, the songs are all in the order in which I wrote and released them throughout that time.
Mm-hmm.
And you can hear me get more aggressive and more like
clap back.
Yeah, for sure. Like the fourth song in it is called "I Will Not Be Leaving Quietly." And it was basically like, look, like I'm going to get louder and you're not going to shut me down. And it kind of stirred something up in me that was a lot of fun too, as like, it kind of reminded me of like my younger days when I used to be like the annoying little brother to my bros or something, where you do something kind of with this little antagonistic sort of poke and be like, well, if
that one got you,
if you're gonna, like, well, here you go. And so, it wasn't that I was intentionally trying to push knobs. It just sort of was fun to play with that, especially as things were getting censored. And that was a whole other exercise in creativity as an artist, because you're seeing friends, like some people would write niche songs during that time about masking or vaccines or whatever, and it'd be very blatant, and they'd get censored and it'd get pulled down. And I would try to get a little more creative with it and not even say those words, as the songs rolled on. And sometimes the algorithms would pick it up and you'd get censored or something. I mean, that was the big thing. I wrote a song called "Sad Little Man" about Anthony Fauci, and that went viral. And that put me into another stratosphere of, oh, wow, like that censorship that you hear online, or that anger, those angry comments and attacks, personal attacks, people looking up your private info because you said something that upset. That's all real. And I had put that song out at the height of, trusting the science, that kind of, lingo was floating around. Everybody was putting Anthony Fauci up on a pedestal. And I put out this song really digging into him. And I think Glenn Beck shared it on his show, which put it into this other, it really started floating around out there. And all of a sudden my friends were like, "I can't find your video on YouTube." And I'm like, "Really?" So I start searching for it. I can't find my own video on YouTube. And so, I'm starting to do little tests where I uploaded just a performance of me singing it. And I'm like, well, that stayed up, but they clearly don't like the music video I made for it. And so that was all of a sudden another thing that I was dealing with that I never would have imagined myself dealing with, like being a censored artist after all these years. Like if you look at the different facets of my personality and music, you've got,
Juicebox, Jukebox.
You got kids music, the most pure thing I could put out into the world. Songs about kindness and gratitude. You've got the song where, the balladeer who wears his heart on his sleeve, the singer-songwriter, that writing love songs and breakup songs. And then you've got this protest artist, era of my career. And it felt very out of place, but it also was very kind of fun to be in that zone and figure out who I was going to be in this moment. It really gave me a chance to think about what I'm putting my output as an artist. And like I said, like taking that forward now, when I write a song, I'm like, what is the purpose of this? because, and I took that through that era as well, where I was like, I could sit down and write 25 COVID songs if I want.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. I waited for certain more clever ideas to come to me. And there would be months between those different songs.
Mm-hmm.
And they happened to, you know, over that course, I was like, oh, I have like an album's worth of songs here. I'll just put them into one collection. But I think that was important because it told me, like, even in this moment, I wasn't the kind of guy that would try to really capitalize on this thing. Like when you're asking, like, how does someone become a protest artist?
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't like, okay, I'm Mr. Protest guy now.
Yeah.
I was just still writing songs about what was going on in my life and projecting my view into my art as I was always doing, even when I was 17, 18. I was just going through breakups at that time. So now I'm just more grown up, and you have that life experience, and you can kind of funnel that into your lyrics and hope that you're giving something to people where they're like, oh, wow, I wanted to talk to I got this message a lot from people where they'd be like, I wanted to like talk to my dad about how he feels. We strongly disagree on whatever it may be during that time, but I was able to send him your music video, you know, and that reached him in a way that I couldn't explain through words.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And so you're seeing this other side in that you've given people not just entertainment, but a tool to communicate with one another. And that seems kind of obvious. That's what art should do.
Yeah.
But that's not really the case much these days. It's very much like just how much can you hold their attention for 30 seconds while you get the ad rev or something like that. So,
you know, the crazy thing is that, you know, when you go to start putting those songs out like that, it's like people can't separate the anger from the discussion. You know, I've got my family and I see this very differently, you know, and we've gotten to the point where we just don't talk about it because at that point, you just can't have a conversation without things becoming pointed. Even as soft play as you try to take it in there, it can't not, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, as you start to take that journey and you start to see people, it's interesting to hear someone say, hey, man, you said the words I couldn't say. Like, or because it was to melody and it was more scripted, there is no clapback in the middle of this. Someone just, they either turn it off or they just listen to all the words without having to stop and argue back to no one on the other line, right? And so they have to hear the whole story before they can have a rebuttal. And maybe something sinks in. Maybe there's a little bit of time that goes into someone making a point by sending some music to someone, as opposed to I'm saying something and you have to cut me off and shut me down and before I can even finish my point.
Right.
You know what I mean? I've never thought of it that way, but that's a pretty amazing tool.
Yeah. It's a very potent time for artists. Like if we really lean into that and try to get back to really speaking through our art. I mean, there are plenty of artists doing it, but like the way the internet is utilized is it's clearly a very visual medium where memes get spread around, you know, little movies, trailers, whatever it is. That's how we are communicating with people. And I think when you're arguing about, you know, data, statistics, political stuff, it is easy for people to be like, well, I'm not going to entertain that idea. Your source for the news is different than mine.
Yes.
And so I've instantly shut the door on it.
Yeah.
But when you do visually represent that, like a meme can get something across that conversation can't. You know, an excellent painting can get that across. I had a great friend during that time, Bob Moran. He's an illustrator out of the UK, and he was making some of the best political commentary through his illustrations during that time. And so many people like were sharing just his images because it made the point without having to say anything. And that I feel like is something that's not as tapped into these days, only because the internet has become such it's a wash with people just trying to grab revenue or whatever. I like kids music. I'm doing that. I put my heart and soul into it. I animate all the videos. I really think about it from a parent's perspective. And I'm like looking up the other day, how to grow my channel and stuff. And I come across this YouTuber she's like, I made a faceless YouTube channel for kids. And I AI generated all of these kids content videos for, to see if I could grow and make revenue in that way. And I was like, wow, like to me, that seems like
playing the game. And because it's kids, I'm like, that's kind of borderline evil. I feel like, is it not like that you're just putting out like slop to see what the parents eat up or what works, without any. So like in contrast to when I get a message about one of my kids' songs from a teacher or something, and how that's impacted their classroom, they can feel that soul. I think that's like where we're at with art. It's a really interesting time to really embed your soul into what you're doing and keeping that human connection with people. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's really cool. I mean, have you had any people push back on some of your older music? Like there's schools that won't take your stuff now because of...
I'm waiting for that to happen with like...
Oh, I didn't know that was that guy. He's out.
Yeah. Like, oh my gosh. Like, but then I think like, because the next year or so I'm getting back into the kids music thing because I just feel like that is a chasm that needs to be filled. There's a lot missing in that world right now. And I really enjoy doing it. And there's a lot of opportunity there to connect with kids and families and teachers. But I am waiting for those worlds to sort of cross. They couldn't be more different, right? Kids music, angry protest artists.
Yeah.
And as I grow the Juicebox project, like at some point I know, somebody's going to be like, I looked at your tweets, and you said this, or I saw your video about Joe Biden or whatever. And I can tell where you align with things and, they're going to be mad and protest or try to boycott or whatever. And it's funny because I'm like, well, like Sesame Street has a lot of guests on it that have really sketchy backgrounds. Like, are you mad at them or no? Because, you just feel like they align with you more politically or something. But like, I'm not nervous about that. I'm just sort of waiting for it to happen. I think it'll be kind of humorous because that's the thing. I think like I'm just so like deeply rooted. I think having a family really secures that feeling. I had this conversation with another songwriter friend of mine where he was asking me sort of the same thing. Like, how do you navigate upsetting people and losing opportunities or, just the trolling that can happen from it. And I'm like, well, I have my family, I have my wife and my kids. And at the end of the day, like they all love me. At the end of the day, nobody's going to stop me from making my art. I'm completely independent. I'm glad I never signed those record label deals, back in the day that I was talking about, because it would have made me a different artist. I think by, going through some of those failures, turning down a lot of the labels, ultimately got me to this point to where I was completely free to say whatever I want when the moment really came, when the moment was at my doorstep and I was like, okay, like now I have to say something. So I appreciate that. I think it was all divinely led. That's just me. I feel like that in my soul. I can look back now and be like, oh, God was there the whole time. Like he carving this path out for me that I just couldn't see. And so now like moving ahead in whatever it is that I do, there's like this sort of, there's a confidence in me that wasn't there a long time ago where it was, and it was very much just my ego and thinking I was in control of everything and the world owed me something because I was doing this great thing. Like now I look and that's what's funny about, when you do, look back at your earlier work, you tend to go like, that was silly, like, oh, I remember who I was then and I'm not that guy anymore. And I'm glad I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you concerned that someone's going to say, "Oh, you were a protest musician and now you're getting into kids' music. You trying to groom our kids to do something? You trying to seed them with your ideas?" Is that what, are you concerned that that's potentially going to happen down the line?
Well, I know it will probably happen, but I mean, I'm not worried about it because I think, so I started that project before I became a protest artist anyway. And if you really listen to the songs, like I try very hard to just make it a very straightforward message. There's a lot of kids content out there in family movies and stuff where you can see exactly, you can feel where it's coming from with little things that are piped in. And if, that's fine. We can watch it or not watch it, whatever. That's their artistic expression, whatever, however you want to classify it. We don't have to absorb it if we don't want to. If you've caught on to it, those aren't your only options. What I would like to do, my message is I just want to give your kids something that'll make them a stronger, better person. And if you're going to argue with me about that, we can go down that road, but I would challenge you to pinpoint the thing that's pissing you off so much,
Yeah.
So we'll see, you do your best and you're still going to upset somebody out there. I had made a video called Thankful for the Jukebox, and it's our most popular video. And so it's gotten out there, and I do the videos for them too. And I put these little personal touches in them sometimes. So like there's this little shots of babies throughout it, and in different spots. And I had used my baby picture, my wife's baby picture, and 3 pictures of my kids. And so they're just little personal touches. And somebody had written me and they were really upset about the lack of diversity in my video. I was like, I'm sorry. Like, it was my kids. I was just putting my family in there. Like, what do you want me to do about it? So, you're always going to get somebody to find something that's wrong with it.
Right.
And, you just shrug it off because, many years ago, I probably would have taken a comment like that and be like, oh my God, like, how do I fix it? What do I do? How can I not upset somebody next time?
Yeah.
And now you just sort of, especially coming out of the COVID protest era, just being like, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. And you can like it or not like it. And, like I said earlier, I challenge you to go through the rest of your home, whatever, your movie library, your music library, and find the one artist that thinks exactly like you about everything that you believe in, because you're not going to find it.
Surely.
So take the good out of it that you want to take, and otherwise leave it.
So as you start to grow through this, you said you're going to transition back a little bit into some of the kid stuff. Do you plan on continuing the route that you have? Are you going to run 2 streams? Is that what you plan on? Or do you just want to transition away from that?
So I feel like, I found myself in a world that I'm glad I was a part of it that time. The 5 years that I really was considered like this protest artist. And I think I kind of served it. It served its purpose. I sort of enlisted myself for that time and was like, okay, I guess I'm going in the battle with, my music. And, I could try to lean into that branding more if I wanted to, but I don't feel called to do that. The crazy thing about the Juicebox project is I kind of left it alone for 5 years as I was doing that other thing. And that's a very bipolar thing to try and, juggle between speaking out on the state of the world and then writing something positive for kids. Is very hard to juggle that. And so I just kind of stayed away from Juicebox and kind of was like, well, maybe I'll come back to it later. And the whole time, it's crazy. Like, I left the project alone, haven't uploaded anything to YouTube. And I guess because the messages are evergreen, they keep finding a new audience every year, and teachers find it and they play it every day for their kids, and they put it into their, daily playlists and stuff. And so the Juicebox project has continued to grow over the last 5 years without me even touching it. So like, and I'd get emails from teachers that are like, do you have sheet music? We want to play it at our programs. And so I kept getting these nudges along the way as I'm doing the other thing where like, it was sort of like, there's still something there to discover and pursue and to really give it your all. It was sort of cut short from before I really got into it. I put out the first kids album and then, found myself in a whole other arena for 5 years. And so I kind of let it taper off this last year just to put myself into this another mind frame of, okay, in 2026, we're getting back to, the Juicebox project because it's just something that's needed, I feel like that stuff served its purpose. I spoke my mind. I think I said everything I needed to say. There's a good little chunk of songs that I think anybody that found it or needs to hear that stuff, it's there. But I feel like this is just as important, if not more important, because now I feel like we have a responsibility to the next generation. That's something that I kind of discovered along the way the last 5 years is like, wow, we've done a lot of damage to the generations coming up, and we really need to raise independent thinkers and leaders and give our kids content that, the kind of stuff that we grew up watching where we didn't really like, Mr. Rogers was like just a pure show that kids absorbed and watched, and you didn't get like this super hardcore political messaging behind it. It's just basic core values and character building. And so that's just where I want to go with things. My kids are a little older now. So, and they keep asking me, they're like, when are you going to do more Juicebox stuff? Cause they had a great time being a part of it. And, 2 of my kids are really into music. And so now they're like, we really want to be on the next record with you. So, there's just a lot there that I really want to discover where like, let's see how far we can really take this project. And that's where I'll be leaning into. So,
well, it sounds to me like it's not that you've grown past that, because I think that could be construed that way by the words that you're saying right now. Sounds to me that you're just done with this conversation for now until the next topic that needs to be discussed comes about.
Yeah.
Is that kind of where we're at?
Yeah. I mean, maybe I make it sound like, oh, that was then.
That's the old me.
That's the old me. It's not really. That's just another that's just another part of me. But, I just don't have anything to say on the matter right now. And I just feel like I owe this other thing some attention after leaving it alone for a while. And it's just as important to me. And I think that's something like, people get caught up in their branding and who they are and what their image is and stuff. And, I had a lot of conversations with people along the way the last 5 years where people approach you and they're like, do you want a partner? Can we incentivize you in some way and get you involved in this organization or whatever? And I very much was like, always like, no, thanks. Like, I just want to put this music out, and it's just something I feel like I have to do right now. And so, it's not that, it's in me to stand by and wait until something, cheeses me off again. I'm like, I got to say something. I'm sorry, guys. I'm coming in with another protest tune, or whatever. But, for right now, it's like I had some songs sitting with Juicebox that I had started that I left, and some other ideas. And there's just a lot there that I've left behind. I want to rediscover and pick up. And it's funny because even along the way, so I started Juicebox, stopped it. Then I went into the COVID era with 5 Times August, put out that album. And in the meantime, like I had linked up with another group of creators, some animators and writers who were doing a patriotic curriculum for kids, for homeschooling. And they had approached me about writing songs for them, which was like a nice middle ground to sort of keep my foot
in both worlds.
In both roles. So that series was called Star Spangled Adventures. And if you go to, I'll do a plug just for the sake of talking about it, but it's littlepatriotslearning.com. And we have short episodes there that sort of just teach you the history of the United States. And there's little songs there that I've written. But now we're making a movie for that series, which is really great. But like, that's another like silver lining that came out of just, both where I don't think I would have been prepared for them to approach me about doing a kids series if I hadn't already been doing kids music before that. So it's interesting how things work out. And I say all that just to say, just follow your gut. Even if the next project that you do as a creative individual is completely different and doesn't match your branding, it'll take you to the next thing after that. And that's okay. And you'll just find that you're like, I remember somebody was like railing on me one day because they were like, oh, you do 5 times August and then you do this kids music project and now you're Mr. Protest. And they were like trying to like make me out to be some grifter guy. And I'm like, it sounds to me like I'm just like a diverse songwriter that just, like I just sort of have many different kinds of music that I like to write. So you just kind of have to, I just think it's just a part of being yourself and following your gut and just not giving a crap what people think along the way.
Yeah. I mean, you can hear the haters from one side say, oh, well, he got a bump when he did this. Then he did it again, and then he did it again. Like you could hear them say, this is why he's doing this now. Right. But to hear you say that I'm walking away from something that I could just find another topic and write another protest song about, but it doesn't inspire me. I was inspired by those things. That shows that the direction or the heart of what that was because you had something to say, not because you were going to get clicks or likes or things behind it, because you could do that now. You can go find another topic and do it, but moving on to another part of your life, that's what got me to the point of saying, it's not gone away. It's just dormant. It's there. Let somebody bring something up that really, ticks you off and let's see where this thing goes. But I don't think once you open that door, I don't think you ever can close that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, you're going to have different things that inspire you at different points in your life. And like, if I had stayed put as a balladeer, whatever, John Mayer type guy, it would kind of be ridiculous at this point to be 42 and married, I feel, to keep trying to write, will you go out with me songs, So you have to anticipate that you are going to be changing or that you may have something that inspires you now that just needs to brew and sit with you for a while you do other things. And if it's meant to be, it'll come back around. But you just have to sort of stay in tune to that, because I wasn't sure if I'd come back around to the kids' music. Because touring, going to different countries, playing at the stages that I was playing on, meeting the people that I was meeting. I was in rooms with very important people at times where I'm like, I guess this is me now, moving ahead. And you kind of like let go of, certain things. And I wasn't sure if I'd really ever get back to it. It's kind of sitting there like and wonder like, oh, I wonder how far I could have taken that if I had kept going with it. Maybe I'll get back around to it. But right now I'm doing this, and I just stayed focused on the task at hand during that period. But it's just an interesting thing to try and juggle too much at once. So
as you've gotten back into the Juicebox thing, found yourself writing for animated series and things like that. You talked about potentially getting back into doing your own series.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at now. It's like a really exciting like time for me, because I feel like everything I had wanted to do with 5 Times August, I kind of have done.
Right.
I didn't do it how I thought I would have done it at the beginning of my career, but I did it. You know, I toured, I got my CD in stores. I met my wife along the way. Like, that's the most important part of this story is like the path that I've taken created a family for me. And it's been a wonderful thing. But now I'm at this thing where I'm like, okay, how do I take all of this experience and then, grow it? And do I want to just do music, or do I want to turn it into a more visual thing? Or do I want to pursue, one of my big dreams is to do a family feature film, animated film, and write the music for it and write the story and stuff. So I'm kind of like putting ideas down for that right now. And growing up as I did with my parents, going back to the beginning and seeing that world that they created, where I'm around these structures and set pieces and color, just very, very creatively rich environments. My imagination always goes to the peak of what can you accomplish, and so I've done music, straight up songwriting, recording artist, playing live. I've done that for 25 years now, and now I've got kids, and like, well, where do I go next? And so it's, for right now, it's the Juicebox project, and maybe that'll grow into, little films, or I even think like, it'd be really cool to have like a themed, like theme park sort of thing, down the road where like, I don't know how big that would be, but that would be really cool to have like a destination attraction sort of thing that's themed around your work. And so, I think moving now into my, I'm 42 now. So I'm like, okay, what am I going to do the next 25 years? Now let's set the dial back and go, okay, now go the next 25 years. You know what you did the first 25. Let's see what you can do the next. And you just take all that accumulated experience and keep building on it.
When you start thinking about the next 25 years, music's probably going to take a back seat? Or do you feel like, because I hear you think, I hear you say stuff like, I'm going to do writing, I'm going to do, films, I'm going to do these other things. It sounds like you're taking a step in a different direction, right? Like you've got your hands still in that a little bit, but it sounds like you're challenging yourself at this point. Like you've turned the page and gone, okay, did that, what's next?
Yeah, I think music will always be a part of me in what I'm doing. I think it'll play a very important role in whatever it is that I'm doing. But kind of like we were just talking about, like some things lay dormant in you.
Right.
And so if you go back to the beginning of the story where I'm talking about dancing and making films with my friends, and I was always interested in that stuff, and then like I'm always fascinated on the behind the scenes or how stuff's made, and that stuff is other accumulated knowledge outside of music that I just haven't gotten to yet. And so I think it will be more demanding. I think, being just a straight up songwriter or composer, we'll have to sort of step aside as I take on different roles. Because I think, when I think about bigger things, if I say theme park, you're a CEO, at that point, you're a president of a company, and you're not just a songwriter. So, I have to figure out what that looks like or how to navigate that. But I'm just sort of like enjoying the ride, I think, at this point, going into that next era of just seeing, well, let's see where this goes. And maybe in 25 years, I still am just singer-songwriter guy, but I have like this wealth of other projects under my belt.
Just loaded up, just ready to jump
I don't
into
know.
them,
It's just a matter of like, I create the thing that I want to make at that time. You find the inspiration, and then you tap into it, and you just go for it.
Well, and like you said at the very beginning of this story too, like the butterfly effect is real. maybe you haven't caught the next thing that's going to cause you to spin out into something else.
Yeah.
That may be today, that may be tomorrow, that may be next year, right? Where you actually come across something you're like, you know what? I'm down for that. Let's check this out and let's see where this goes. So
yeah,
life has a way of putting boulders in your way, and you have to make your way around them to find a journey down the hill. You know what I mean? It's like, that's part of it. You know, you find these things. And so that's a really cool thing to know. Like, life is such an amazing thing that I'm just getting to experience this thing, you know, and play my role in it and play a part in it and do what I can with the gifts that I've got, but just play a role in it, you know? And so,
yeah.
What is take a little bit of a turn here. What is a guilty pleasure band that you've always loved that you didn't want anybody to know you did?
I've got one. The Spice Girls.
Spice Girls.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good 90s Brit pop. The songs are still good. You know, what was that? 97, 98. I was in high school. You know, you picked your favorite Spice Girl, you know, but you didn't tell your friends that you actually liked the music.
Yeah.
But now, you know, I have a daughter, and like, it's actually pretty fun music, you know, but I can jam to the Spice Girls.
Yeah. I'll throw it on in the car and you're like, oh, you'll love this one. Then you're over there like,
my love. Yeah.
throwing it down.
Yeah. That's for sure a guilty pleasure, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there an instrument that you have never picked up you wish you had?
I would love to learn like violin or cello. I love string arrangements. And they're, no matter what, like if I hear those on a recording, like I'm just like, gosh, I want more of that. And I've had some songs of mine that have had some great string arrangements on it. But like, if I could just have my voice with you know, that might be one of my projects down the road, where it's just like, I want an orchestra with a lush string, you know, arrangement behind me for 12 or 14 songs. But that's a challenging instrument, is like violin, or, you know, all instruments have their own challenges, but violin is like one where I'm like, every time I hear it, I'm just like, oh, it's so pretty.
Somebody's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime I hear anything that's got horns in it, like trumpets or something that, like there's always something so good. And you can find these combinations of like this sound and this type of cadence and whatever. You can find similarities in music that you actually really like all the time. And you're like, oh, this one just got me because it was part of the equation. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Are you a video games guy?
I'm a 90s video game guy, 80s, 90s guy. I like
Mega
classics. Man? Yeah, I like Mega Man. So my brother, he is actually in the gaming space. He has his own podcast. He's been a successful content creator since 2006 in the gaming space. And I would come on his show as a character called Unaware Steve. And my whole premise was I was this gamer who hadn't played any game since 1992.
Yeah.
And so I would go to video game conferences as this character and just interview modern gamers as if I didn't know anything. Yeah. But
like you played Tecmo Bowl?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like
Bo Jackson's ridiculous.
Yeah, like that kind of stuff. Like it was so fun to do, but like that's my peak in video gaming.
Yeah.
I just love all the classics that I grew up with, and my kids now are into Minecraft and stuff. But I'm like, I can't get into it. It's too much. I just want a guy going across the screen.
Yeah.
Jump, shoot, whatever.
You know, it's funny when my kids got to a certain age, like you find that they end up making their way back into the room. Like when you walk in the door, Dad doesn't happen, you know, and you start finding ways to make these connections happen, right? Like what are they doing that I need to be doing more of so I can make sure that I keep this connection alive?
Yeah.
And they video gamed.
Yeah.
And so I would get in, I went and bought the same console they had, the same games they had. I got a headset what games y'all playing? Let's go. I want to play. I want to jump in there. And of course, they were tearing me up at the point, but at the end of the day, too, like some of their friends thought it was really cool that Dad was in there playing or doing those things. So I'm interested to see this next chapter if some of those connectivity points start to happen with you, because I mean, you are going to start, you know, having less and less conversation time, less face time with those guys. and like how do you keep that connection alive?
Yeah.
So that's
we got a Switch last year, and I'm still good at Mario Kart. I found out, even the new ones. So I'm kicking their butt.
There you
go. Putting them in their place on that. But as for I did sit down to try and play Minecraft with them, and I was like, I can't do this, guys. I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm doing. And they're sitting there like, what is this, Dad? Like, just that button. I'm like, there's too many buttons. I need two. But Mario Kart still holds up. I'm having a good time with that with the kids. Yeah.
Yeah. You'll have to text me back in a few years and let me know if that changes because, as sophistication goes with their games, you're going to
for sure.
We also play this game at our house called Pass the Phone or Pass the Aux. And so, we always find it where we want to put our influence on other people, right? Our music was the best. We listened to this. Our thing was this kind of way. And the way that I want people to feel about my music, because I'm connected to it and it makes me feel a certain way, I know they have the same feeling inside of them when they want me to hear something. And so I'll pass the aux. You get 2 songs, you get 2 songs, you get 2 songs, and you get 2 songs. And we explain these songs as we're listening to them and tell people why we love them. And here's the history behind the person and what they were doing. And, wait for this moment here. Listen to what they say and blah, 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 right? And now I've gotten to the point where my kids have listened to my music and I've listened to theirs. And we have these playlists that are really eclectic, between the 4 of us, and now I've seen them building out playlists that are like my genres, and even genres that my parents had passed on to me, right? Yeah. And it's really cool to see. It's just influence, but we all kind of get stuck in these pockets, Do you guys push influence? How do you accept your kids' music versus what they're listening to, what you're used to listening to?
Yeah. So my kids are influenced pretty heavily by the stuff I've played for them.
Yeah.
But they are discovering artists on their own. And so I'm listening to stuff I wouldn't normally listen to, but especially with my daughter.
And how old is she now?
She's 8.
Okay.
But I'm enjoying it, as long as it's clean and it's not inappropriate or anything. I'll go into it with an open mind because well, what's the latest trend? Because I really don't know. Like that's what's kind of funny is like, I kind of, you have that period in your life, especially in high school, you're absorbing all of the, culturally relevant music at that time. And we could, have good back and forth about 90s tunes, I'm sure. But like, you kind of peter out of that throughout college. And then once you have a family, you're not really looking for new music as much anymore. You may hear a song on the radio and be like, oh, that's cool. But you're not like seeking out art or music and artists to connect with in the same way. But my kids are introducing me to some new stuff that's pretty cool that I like. And in the same way, like my middle son, he's got an old soul. He's 11. And he picked up piano about 5 years ago. He loves the blues, loves playing jazz, really loves all the old music from 50s and 60s. Yeah. And that's like his preferred choice. He likes some new stuff too, but he's really into that. And that's pretty cool to see because like he just gets it. I taught him, the basic blues structure. And so now he picks it up when he hears it and he can play along with it and find the key that it's in. And it's really neat to see that.
Have you seen what AI is doing with these old songs like hip hop songs or alternative rock songs, and they're turning them into like blues songs and stuff? It's really, really cool. I don't know if you've seen these or not, but it's pretty amazing what AI is producing out of some of these songs.
Yeah.
Just taking the exact same lyrics from an artist and just producing something. It's insane to see.
Yeah, it is a crazy time. I started seeing like vocal swaps where they, you could get David Bowie singing some, early Beatles song or something like that. And it's only going to get better as far as the quality and the realness of it all. So that's an interesting place to be at right now is figuring out, because I struggle with it for sure. Like, and I have a lot of conversations with it with my creative friends where we're like, I saw this thing and AI generated it and I know there's no soul behind it, but it actually made me think. you know, and so you're trying to like balance this tool that we have now. And I think we're going to see a rush towards AI generated stuff. Obviously, it's the new thing. But I think that there will be a circle back to this trendy sort of, kind of like vinyl records circled its way back to where this tangible, you know, organic thing that you can hold actually still means something to people. And I think that we'll go through the AI phase of things and we'll see all this stuff. We'll see movies and sequels with, you know, actors that are dead and it's going to look real, and a lot of them will be trash. And every now and again, there'll be one that everybody shares, and it's going to mess with copyright a lot, which will be interesting. But I think it'll eventually circle its way back around to like, it'll be cool to know somebody made that, you know, made the art.
Yeah.
You know, there's a real hands-on thing here.
Yeah.
You know, they actually filmed it on film, or there's actual actors there, or all of the special effects were practical effects done in the camera. I think that stuff will still be relevant and mean something to people. So I try not to get too spooked about AI, you know, taking over everybody's endeavors, but we'll see. Yeah.
Well, the cool thing about that too is like, I've told everyone that, you know, works for me or is in the art industry or whatever. I've told them all, I've said, look, I've gone through many phases of where technology changes, and things that I was really good at and I was ahead of the curve on somebody, a tool or a piece of software came out and it changed the game, and now people caught up to me. I just had to work twice as hard to jump back out in front with something else, right? Use the tool for what it's for, right? Use it. It is a tool. And so you just can't say, no, this thing never moves from here on out. Like it's just not how it's going to happen, right? But there's some really cool things that can happen. Use it as something that speeds up your process, or helps you to write something, or helps you to do these things. And maybe it can, you know, piece together some things that you couldn't quite get when you had the puzzle pieces, but you couldn't get them together. And then all of a sudden you did, and you're like, oh, that's still all my ingredients, you know? And so I'm never fearful of it.
Yeah.
I want it to enhance, but I think the originality of stuff, that will be something that lives on for forever. Someone's got, oh, I've got the original piece, or I've got, this is someone really touched this, you know, this is, you know, so those are things that can't be duplicated.
Right. Yeah. That authenticity is the key, I think. And it'll be interesting to find that, you know, when we find that balance. I think that's where humanity is as a whole right now, is like we are charging ahead in this technological world where advancements are being made. It's moving very fast, and we're just full bore straight ahead without kind of stopping to think, where did we come from? And I think we're going to hit a point where there's going to be a wall where we kind of have to realize that we're really deep into it and find the balance between it all. You know, I think like, you know, in the 80s, our vision of the future had that good balance where you had like,
hoverboards,
baby. And but there's like a balance between the humanity and technology in our vision of the future. And so we're going to kind of have to circle back, I think, to that. I think that's why a lot of, you know, people are, I don't know about you, but I have a lot of friends that are looking for land right now. They want land. They just want to get out of the cities, or they want to homeschool their kids. And I think there's this innate feeling that a lot of us have that too much is out of our control.
Yeah.
And that's only going to keep going as we develop our technology and what we're doing. And so there'll have to be a point, I imagine, unless it just destroys us sooner than we expect, but where we go, okay, maybe we pull back a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't need Elon Musk's big, you know, AI robot person to fold my laundry. I can do that, you know, but we'll see. Time will tell. But as far as it pertains to art, you know, that's the conversation, is like, you know, it's just another tool. You have to look at it that way. You can't be so against it. You know, I admittedly was at first, but at this point, it's like, it's not going anywhere. You know, I think back to Charlie Chaplin putting his foot down against sound movies. You know, he didn't want to do that. and he held off as long as he could, but ultimately had to make a talking picture.
Yeah.
Or you could look at Pro Tools and be like, well, it's not a reel-to-reel tape, it's not a real console.
Yeah.
Or you could look at Photoshop and be like, those aren't real brushes.
Yeah.
So how
That's
deep
not film.
How deep exactly do you want to go with this conversation? So just find your way of using it, like you said, and help it make your creative process flow a little easier.
Well, I'll tell you this. We were introduced through a mutual friend. Had no idea what to expect here. Really, really had a great conversation, man. I think
Thanks, man.
I think you got a really good head on your shoulders. You're love the direction you're taking things, and you're very inspiring, even for me. Like, you've kind of made me think about, like, all right, maybe I pull the reins on the horse and make them legs go up, and let's see where this thing goes, and but I just want to say thank you for coming on and taking the time to really kind of tell your story.
Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, you want to tell everybody where they can find you at?
Sure. You can check out 5timesaugust.com. Pick up, it depends what kind of mood you're in. Check out 5timesaugust.com for, the old stuff, the singer-songwriter stuff, the protest era stuff. And then if you've got kids, if you've got grandkids, check out the Juicebox, jukebox.com, and you can find all the videos there and on YouTube. So
any Instagram profiles or?
Yeah, I mean, either one. I'm on X at 5timesaugust, Instagram at 5timesaugust, or you can look up Instagram, the Juicebox Jukebox. So it's all under the band names. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks so much, man.
Yep. Well, everybody, until next time, that's the Blueprint.